Today on the Topping Show, Target replaces their gay pride display units with ones of American patriotism. A student gets a $20,000 settlement from the school after they suspended him for using the term illegal alien. Elon Musk roasts Congress for a spending bill that gets over 100 million views on X. Cadillac F1 team to get a Tommy Hilfiger sponsorship. Ford officially kills hot hash after 45 years. And yet another sink is being recalled due to lead contamination. All of that and much more on The Topping Show. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show, which is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guys, he's quite handsome and brilliant. Well, you see, he's me. That's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase, with Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Cadillac F1 team to get a Tommy Hilfiger sponsorship, which is interesting because I forgot they even existed. I think I had Tommy Hilfiger pants once in my life, and interestingly enough, a basketball with their logo on it. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Brian Hurd at thedrive.com. He says, quote, Cadillac F1 team secures Tommy Hilfiger sponsorship for 2026 bid. Hilfiger backed Mercedes since F1 returned in 2018. Now the brand will appear on America's Series Entry. Can't pronounce things, that's why I click the subscribe button. Throughout the years, I've become slightly better at that, and I think that's because I've got more subscribers. Now, diving into the article, and I was going to say, for once, don't have to give a visual disclaimer because at Cadillac looks actually pretty cool. Now, they say, quote, after nearly a decade of continuously sponsoring Mercedes, AMG Petronas, fashion juggernaut Tommy Hilfiger has confirmed it will be back via Cadillac's Formula One effort in 2026 and beyond as the team's official apparel partner and lifestyle sponsor. It's a bit of a coup for Cadillac, whose admittance to the series was staunchly opposed by Mercedes F1 owner and boss Toto Wolff. No specifics of the details were made public in Hilfiger's announcement, but we were teased with a broader strokes of a multi-year arrangement. Not only will the Hilfiger brand adorn Cadillac race cars, but will also provide, quote, official fanwear collection swag, immersive events, and activities, also known as influencer parties, and, quote, disruptive campaigns with the team and drivers, unquote. Then they clarify, like, we don't know what the hell that actually means, because, yeah, that's almost like a politician saying something. That's pure PR. It's saying something without saying something. Now, they also expanded, saying, quote, two icons, one vision, a new bold era for American motorsport, unquote, Hilfiger said in an official announcement. We are proud to continue our Formula One story alongside TWG Motorsports and Cadillac. We share a vision to honor the heritage of F1 while pushing it forward, celebrating where we came from and reimagining where we can go. As the sports presence around the globe continues to soar, there's never been a better time to dream big and show the world what an American team can bring to the grid, unquote. They know that Hilfiger's F1 ties date back to the early 1990s. The brand first partnered with Lotus, which I try not to laugh when I bring up Lotus, but they have a long racing heritage. But yeah, their cars are kind of hit or miss, not to get too much into ADHD. Now, they note that Hilfiger took a 17-year hiatus from the series after the 2001 season and sponsored Mercedes continuously from its return in 2018 through the end of last season, when Mercedes and Adidas announced their partnership for 2025. In a roundabout way, this partnership would temporarily unite Hilfiger with Ferrari. The latter will spin up engines for Cadillac's entry form, buying time for GM to spin up its own development program, which wants to have it in place by 2030, unquote. Which is kind of funny. Half the comments say, great, two brands that have not been relevant since the early 1990s and early 2000s, which, I mean, I would argue that's kind of when Cadillac started to make a comeback, so to say. Culturally speaking, I would say partially due to the fact that they're a big sponsor of the Matrix series, which if you ever watched those series, if you haven't, what the hell's wrong with you? It's been decades. One of the best films of all time. If you watch those movies, interestingly enough, most of the main cars are all GM products, especially Cadillac, and that new angular design really took them to the next level and got them to, I was about to say the youth buyer. Not really, but the more youthful buyer. That was a pretty low bar because most people who bought them were nearly dead, but they started to get more in the sports car and more, and shoot, I mean, these days, I would love a Cadillac CT4V Blackwing or CT5V Blackwing, which have a twin turbo stick shift or a big old V8 stick shift options, respectively. So it'll be interesting to see, again, in terms of, me being a core audience member or core prospective client for Tommy Hilfiger. Obviously not. I mean, this will have no influence on my purchasing decisions. You know me, I buy one suit every couple decades and make it last. And yeah, when's the last time I bought? I don't even remember the last time I bought a dress shirt, but definitely sure as hell was not Tommy Hilfiger. But yeah, I only partially joke when I say they're still around. I mean, let me know in the comments. When was the last time you actually heard of Tommy Hilfiger? And then have you actually bought any of their brand apparel since the 1990s? Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news: you have Ford officially killing the hot hatch after 45 years, although now it's global. It was formerly just in North America when we lost the awesome cars like the good old Ford, or as I like to say, the Ford. Got the Ford Focus ST and the Ford Focus RS. Those are awesome, though obviously not reliable because, Ford. Yeah, I still remember test driving those, and I was debating between getting the Honda Civic Si 2018 versus the Ford Focus ST. I mean, the Ford Focus ST had more torque, more horsepower. Both, I actually admire Ford for this. They only had it in a stick shift, and it was more fun to drive. However, the Honda Civic can more easily fit Freedom, also known as rifles, and also more reliable. And knock on wood, my Cadillac, I'm about to say Cadillac someday, hopefully, my Civic and my Honda has been pretty darn reliable thus far. But a couple years ago, Ford said, we're going to get out of cars because you don't make a lot of money in them. Most companies don't. Most of the profit in the automotive industry comes from, well, I was about to say hybrids. No. Crossovers, trucks, and SUVs. They're largely, hugely profitable, pun not really intended, because they're also huge. Or should I say huge. That's where the profit comes from. So a couple years ago, Ford said, we're going to kill it in North America. Now it looks like it's all over. Now, here you can actually see one of the rear panels from my ST. Little hot hatch, which again, they're so much fun, but yeah, the reliability, not there. Now they say, quote, after 45 years of performance hatchbacks, Ford confirms to Motor One is exiting the segment. And this is credited to Adrian, who's a writer at, again, Motor1.com, saying, quote, Ford's hot hatch journey began with a modest attempt in 1980. Actually, let me get this beautiful car on the screen, which I don't say the words beautiful in Ford too often. Again, that looks to me kind of cute. It's like, is that the Ford? Is that the Focus? No, it's the Fiesta ST, which those things are a fun hot hatch. They weigh darn near nothing. And this one is actually nice green color. Again, this would be a fun car, but only Europe got the latest iterations of the Focus and the Fiesta. But I partially digress. Now, they say, quote, it began in the 1980s when the Fiesta Super Sport was launched. Things got more serious the following year with a beefier Fiesta XR2. However, it was the 1984 Escort RS that truly cemented the company's contribution in the exciting niche of practical performance cars. 45 years after the Super Sport, the Blue Oval is now exiting the segment. After the Fiesta ST was discontinued a couple years ago, the Focus ST has now followed suit. In a statement to Motor One, Ford confirmed that the new Focus ST orders are no longer being accepted. The company's European Commission's manager, Finn Tomlinson, stated, quote, all Focus ST factory orders until the end of production have now been reserved. This is disappointing news, unquote. This is disappointing news following a recent announcement from Ford UK about the retirement of its last remaining hot hatch. Although the configuration tool for the new ST is no longer available, Thompson mentioned that unsold vehicles are still available in most European markets. As previously reported, production of the Focus and its derivatives will cease in November. Once it happens, Ford will be left without a regular car in Europe. Jeez. Where the Fiesta was retired in 2023, and the Mondeo in 2022, and the Tiny Ka in 2020. They say that, quote, sure, the Mustang remains, but ultimately that's a niche product. The Pony Car's 5-liter V8 is both a blessing. I can't believe they have the audacity of saying it. It's a blessing and a curse. While it's an excellent naturally aspirated powertrain, the high EU totalitarian evil government, I'm sorry, I paraphrase there, they, quote, high EU taxes on large displacement engines make it a tough sell. The smaller turbocharged 2.3-liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder was pulled from the European market at the end of 2020. The Ka Fiesta and Mondeo already gone and Focus production winding down. Ford's European sales continue to decline. According to the figures from European Automotive Manufacturers Association, through April, Ford sales decreased 2.2% to 149,601 units across the EU and UK and EFTA countries, known as Iceland, Norway, Switzerland, and the fun trivia country people forget about, Liechtenstein, which is only known for having a long, complicated, hard-to-spell name, also Hilti Tools. That concludes everything you need to know about Liechtenstein. They're famously headquartered there. I'm great for trivia nights, as long as it's not sports balls questions. Now, they continue saying, quote, for perspective, Volkswagen sold 488,033 cars in the same time period in the same area. Even South Korea's Kia and Hyundai surpassed Ford with 183,095 units being sold and 174,103 being delivered respectively. We'll see, we get another nice looking Ford on the screen, which is, again, something I usually don't say. Here you got the that's the 4-door Focus. Is that the ST or RS? The RS is a 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive version with the stick shift, which is also awesome too. They say that, quote, whether new models are on the horizon, let alone another hot hatch, is unclear. The combustion engine era appears to be winding down. So any further performance offering would likely be electric, which again is because of the corrupt European Union. They say that VW sales and marketing chief and former Ford head of Europe, Martin Sanders, has hinted at the possibility of Ford gaining more access to MEV platform to develop new models that allow the ID4 Explorer and EV stuff. They say still, it's too early to say whether Ford will launch something akin to the ID3 or upcoming ID2 or ID1. VW has committed to an electric GTI model. Terrible. So perhaps one day the Fiesta ST or Focus ST could return as EVs for all 18 people who would want that. I added that best part, obviously. Meanwhile, crossovers like the Puma, not the shoe, and Kuga must do the heavy lifting in the EU, EFTA, and UK regulations, where Ford's market share is currently at 3.4%, or roughly 3 times less than VW, which, yeah, it's sad to see these fun cars going away. And again, with Ford and a lot of these companies, I still think they gave up on North American market a long time ago for, cars. But again, I always think cars are a great entry-level vehicle. They obviously cost less, but then you get the person committed to liking the brand, and they obviously will eventually buy something like an SUV and a truck, which are comically more profitable in comparison to the cars. But again, I think this is partially due not just to consumer demand decreasing, but also the European Union, all the regulations. Because again, that's directly why Volkswagen said they were going to kill the ultimate Golf GTI with the stick shift, is because of the emissions, all that kind of stuff. Not to get too political, but that is one of the biggest variables of why we're seeing a decrease of these types of performance vehicles in Europe, especially. And so it'll be interesting to see how this works out long term. But it is sad to see that, again, if I had unlimited funds, I probably would have a Focus ST in the driveway. Because, again, I know some friends have got 150,000 miles out of them. I know not every one of them is unreliable, but they, of course, have had some gasket issues. And yeah, at the end of the day, I did choose Honda because of reliability. But yeah, let me know. Do you know anyone who's actually owned these vehicles? Do you like them? And do you think Ford will ever recover, market share in Europe? Let me know your thoughts and comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the Cultural Pride podcast, you have Target replacing the gay pride displays with USA Pride, also known as patriotism, which is a rare thing these days. Now, this comes to us thanks to EndWokeness on X, and he says, quote, Target replaced their Pride Month aisle with USA Pride. The vibe shift is real. And you can see last year we had Pride for all the family, the parents, the middle school, and even the kiddo. And yeah, famously, Target also had transitional apparel, not, the glasses, not the transition bifocal glasses, but, the actual clothing. Famously, they had a tuck-friendly swimsuit. And that sparked a lot of controversy last year. Now, they're saying the vibe is shifting. Maybe Target's becoming more patriotic. I don't think that's the main variable, the main reason why they're doing this. It's because they're being sued. Because again, internal memos from Target, well, they determined that a couple years ago. They go, yeah, we're gonna go do gay pride again. We think we know we're gonna get some backlash. We know we're gonna get some boycotts, and we know it'll cost us money, but we're gonna do it anyway. Which again, they are a publicly traded company. Well, I would say famously also headquartered in the definitely not the great state. When I talk about states, I usually talk about Texas because it's one of the best, obviously. But they're in the very left state of Minnesota, famously headquartered there. And used to be, ironically, family and religiously owned, but I partially digress. But yeah, Target, they've been served a couple lawsuits because they've done the things that are not aligned to make the shareholders the greatest amount of money. And again, they're publicly traded. Anyone can buy Target stock, not financial advice. It's been crashing like a Boeing airplane lately. But yeah, they got a lot of backlash last year, and a lot of companies are moving away. We've seen a couple outliers, especially if you go on the Facebook. It seems like every city and police and sports balls team, except, Texas ones, are putting up things for the Pride Month, but in terms of businesses, most are acquiescing this year. And here you can see the juxtaposition of the two pictures, where you see, again, that former Pride gear. Then you see America, which, again, it's only June, and yet people think this is almost, setting up for the 4th of July, where you have, well, almost ironically, because they have, flip-flops that say USA, but there's a 0% chance they're manufactured in the USA, because it looks like they're cheap foam, which is usually from China, or Trump would say, China. But yep, they have full-blown displays, got USA t-shirts, which I hope are made here, but kind of roll the dice these days. I always suggest you check the apparel tag, but usually they are not made here. And yeah, this moderately viral got a couple 100,000 views and 6.1 thousand likes, with one of the first comments coming to us thanks to Gunther Eagleman. And he says, quote, "Common sense is making a comeback, getting 124 likes." America Pop Bear says, quote, "Tired of going woke or going broke from going woke," getting 44 likes. Paul Zupa also says, "We're winning the culture back. America is healing," getting 93 likes, which I think is not just culturally why they're doing this, but also fiscally. They were bleeding money last year and they're being sued by the shareholders. The investors are pretty irate that they did the things that were not cohesive or actually going against making them more money. They were costing them money. Barefoot Pregnant also says, Target's move proves patriotism still wins when consumers are demanding it, getting 6 likes. Cash Loren says, "Keep fighting for America. We are winning," getting 3 likes. Mom Dukes says, "I honestly doubt Target's sincerity in the change of their attitude," getting 40 likes, which, again, that's a good point. And Wokeness responded saying, "Who cares? The point is the vibe shift," getting 53 likes. Now, that being said, Target is still, I would argue, pretty controversial culturally speaking, because they allow individuals to use whatever changing room and restrooms that they prefer. Also known as men being, going to the women's restrooms, the changing room. So again, there's still a pretty big point in controversy in terms of I'd say a lot of people's attitudes towards the company. But again, I think I think it's a good thing. You have Maria Isabella saying, quote, "Target was all in on the Pride just a couple years ago. I wonder what changed." Then you have a little meme of a parody of a Target spring collection getting 9 likes. Let's see here. "My favorite color is clear set." That's a very interesting profile name. Says, quote, "There's no such thing as Pride Month," getting 8 likes. Now, we do have a contrarian statement. 24 Coffee Girl 22, long name. She says, quote, "They're still woke. This was taken yesterday. It's not in front of the store, but they have Pride." And it looks like it has Pride. It's not the Pride flag, but it's all the Pride colors with the Target logo at the very end. And you have a colorful t-shirt or dress, muumuu, I think is what they call it. Just kind of an appropriate, good marketing, because that's usually who wears them. But yeah, I guess you can call that Pride in terms of it's almost borderline, because it's not an actual Pride flag. It's a rainbow colors. Let me know in the comments. Do you think this counts? Is definitely not as in your face as it was. And you don't see, there's no vernacular, like there's not a specific word on this display that says Pride. I almost think that's a coin toss. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, of course. You also have Deborah Hagen saying, quote, "America first always," is a picture of a bald eagle. Which ironically, Benjamin Franklin hated he was very much against using the bald eagle. He wanted to use a turkey, but another topic for another time, perhaps. You also have Maria Isabella saying, quote, "Pride seems to be very much toned down around this year, doesn't it?" And she has a juxtaposition of 2 logos, rather logos from 2024, juxtapositioned to logos in 2025, where major companies including Apple, IBM, Hewlett-Packard, American Airlines, Paramount, and Vogue in 2024, they were all Pride. In 2025, none of them changed their logos. I was very shocked this year, especially on LinkedIn. I could only find 2 major technology companies that did change their logos to trans flags this year. One was Cognizant, which is one of the largest outsourcers of IT, or sorry, it's Accenture. They're both major outsourcers of IT. And then the other one would be Optiv. They're headquartered in Colorado. A little biased because they're a competitor, but they're a value-added reseller and managed service provider in the technology industry. But thus far, those are the only 2 major tech companies I've seen. And even non-tech, most of the big ones have not changed their logos, which being in sales inevitably and being an entrepreneur, I spend a fair amount of time on LinkedIn. And yeah, for 5 to 10 plus years, nearly every Fortune 500 company would change their logo. They would put out actual posts on the LinkedIn. And again, this year, last year is about 50%, take rate in terms of those companies doing it. This year, I would suspect less than maybe 1%. Like, it's astronomical how much of a drop off there was this year. This also goes for their accounts on X, and I need to examine their Facebook pages, but I would suspect Facebook as well. Now, you also have Philip Lip saying, quote, "People are tired of the LGBTQ being shoved in their faces. Keep your sexuality to yourselves behind closed doors," getting 21 likes. Going down more and more. Johnny X says, quote, still seeing it online though. And he goes to target.com, and they do have a Pride collection in which they actually, spelled out literally. It looks like they have categories for pets, LGBTQ pets, home, stationery, music, apparel, accessories. They got 5 likes. Yim Strat says, "Don't trust them. They did the unthinkable. they featured 2 white people, and which, yeah, in advertisements, that's, I mean, you haven't seen that since the 1980s, 90s. Joe Biden famously joked about that when he was in office. But yeah, that's why I have displays of a vintage Nintendo, NES, as well as Nintendo 64. And the Nintendo NES is a very unusual display on the backside of the display box because it actually has a white family, all happy and playing video games together, which, again, modern advertisements, that is exceedingly rare. That also got 11 likes. So it'll be interesting to see how much Target continues to kind of pull back. But let me know your thoughts. Do you think they'll make more money this year because of it? Do you think maybe it'll backfire in terms of maybe they'll be protested by the leftist or LGBT because they're upset that it's not in the very front of the store being displayed? What are your thoughts? Let me know, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news: you have a student getting $20,000 after a school suspended him for saying the word illegal alien. I was going to say it's almost enough for free college, though these days I wouldn't waste money in college anyway. This is brought to us thanks to Libs of TikTok, in which she says, quote, breaking: Christian McGehee, the North Carolina teen who was suspended from school for using the term illegal alien, will receive $20,000 in a public apology from Davidson County Board of Education after they falsely accused him of racial bias. And it's a little unfortunate. The only thing I would change to that picture of him is his t-shirt should have a hashtag on it called winning. Because, yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, again, in terms of being accused of racism and having your reputation ruined, I would argue it's worth more than 20 grand, but that's just me. Now, her original post from, what was it, a couple weeks ago? Actually, no, a couple months ago. Actually, no, last year. Jeez Louise, it took a while for this legal to go through. Now, she said this is Christian. He's a 16-year-old student. He was suspended for 3 days after using the term illegal alien in an English assignment because it was found offensive and disrespectful. Now his record could be damaged. Please support this based student by helping raise awareness to his story. And yeah, actually, and I'm not a fan of frivolous lawsuits, but I'm also not a fan of, public schools for pretty much every instance because they're so corrupt and just more or less just morally bankrupt and, brainwashing kids these days. But I'm surprised they didn't push for more. Now, this got 1.9 million views as well as 64,000 likes. Scrolling down to the main comment section, one of the first ones comes to us thanks to our favorite contrarian, the gas stove, which obviously is not real. Stoves can't type. Although, wait a minute, most of them are connected to China, as Trump would say, and, the IoT or Internet of Things is real, so they might be typing. I'm only partially kidding. The gas stove says, quote, it should be illegal to use the term illegal alien because of the racist tropes associated with it. Undocumented or unauthorized immigrants should be the correct term, in my opinion. Gained 23 likes. Improving engagement is, he is brilliant at engagement farming. He got 210 responses, where no other response to Libs TikTok was that viral. Let's see, was he ratioed? Most likely. Yvonne says, quote, breaking the law is doing something illegal. You are illegal. Call a spade, gained 43 likes. And he says, crossing the border is a civil offense, not a crime, which everyone laughed at him for that. Aussie Teacher says, quote, it's like calling a criminal who breaks into your home an unauthorized visitor illegal is much more accurate than undocumented because it captures both the criminal and undocumented aspect of moving to a country without a country's permission. Gained 63 likes. Gas Stove says, but it's against the Constitution, which obviously is probably one of the most famous trolls. Gabby says, quote, it's called illegal alien, and rightfully so. There's nothing in the phrase that slightly implies race or ethnicity, just lack of immigration status. Stopping still. He gained 59 likes. And again, there's 213 replies to the gas stove, but those are the top ones. CB says, quote, Christian McGehee's parents should be arrested for raising a racist boy. Gained 29 likes. 35 likes, going up like a stock. But he was, as youth might say, ratioed completely because Smagato, I think I pronounced that right, says, quote, you're a effing clown and part of the problem. Gained 306 likes. George Bliss says, your brain's totally broken, retard. Gained 27 likes. A lot of people doing the Gordon Ramsay, just calling them an idiot sandwich with that meme. Or some people call it meme. Does not sound fancy, though. And this is a name I probably won't get right, but it's Otissus Driftwood. Says, quote, all the board should be fired and pay the amount of out of their own finances. It's easy to hand out tax money for the for their purposeful wrong actions. Hold individuals accountable. Gain 1.3 thousand likes. Also, a good reason to be involved in your school board elections and also, looking into what they're actually teaching at your schools. Again, you can vote them out. Very few people actually vote on a local level. Everyone votes for presidential. Well, many people vote for the presidential election in the United States, but the midterms, even fewer. And when it comes to local things that have a huge impact on their day-to-day life, unfortunately, not enough people get out and vote. Matt Van Swole responded saying, quote, "Why didn't he receive 2 million? This is outrageously low. Calling a kid a racist and suspending him from school only nets you 20K. F that, sue the crap out of him, gained 1.2 thousand likes." America AF says, quote, "Should have been at least 100K, gained 406 likes." Citizen X says, quote, "The term illegal alien appears approximately 33 times in Title 8 of the U.S. Code, which encompasses a federal immigration law. Have a problem with that? Talk to Congress and leave the kid alone," getting 179 likes. Wes Bestern says, quote, "Not enough. The person who issued the suspension needs to be fired," getting 144 likes. And I think they should also most likely, I was going to say primary them if you're local, take their job and actually do a better job. The bar is so low for like leaders in the public school in the United States. I would argue that damn near anyone would do a better job than most of them right now. I'm trying to see. I was going to say it kind of drops off in terms of the most popular comments from there. But yeah, I was going to say not a lot of justice, but interesting question for the comments. What do you think should have been his compensation? Again, I'm not a fan of college, but to me, in terms of a barometer of success or what I consider a barometer of successful outcome for this, if I were him, I'd want at least enough for like free college, cost to him to cover free college. So it's to him at no cost, maybe a couple $100,000 more on top of that, just because of the brand reputation. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part of the podcast, you have Elon Musk roasting the congressional spending bill and gets over 100 million views, which is quite a few to say the least. Now, this is brought to us thanks to, well, appropriately enough, Elon Musk himself on X, in which he says, quote, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know what you did is wrong, and you know it." Getting 110.4 million views and 560,000 likes, which is quite a few to say the least. Which, yeah, yet another reason I have a great disdain for rhinos. I at least respect Democrats in terms of you get, whatever you vote for, you usually get. Well, when they count your vote, sometimes they don't with super delegates, but it's an instance where there's only betrayal with Republicans. There are so many useless rhinos, mainly spineless, mainly corrupt, or as Archer would say, maybe a little column A, maybe a little column B. But yeah, we elected you to cut the spending. We elected you to get rid of the corruption. And yet, very, very, very rarely do they ever cut spending. Sometimes we get some tax breaks, which, again, I appreciate. I want more. And yet, yeah, they're, let me know in the comments if you think they're more corrupt or inept. Hard to say which one is worse. Well, that's a debate in and of itself. One of the first comments coming to us is thanks to Trump Tracker, who says, quote, "We tried to warn you. Trump only cares about himself and his wealthy friends," getting 10,000 likes and 332 responses. Trying to see if he was ratioed. No, not 10,000 likes. No. Daniel Abbey did respond saying the overwhelming majority of multi-billionaires back the Democrats, which, yeah, is true. Getting 78 likes. Part of my ex says, quote, "Okay, LOL, because Harris wouldn't have added to the spending. In what freaking universe?" Getting 77 likes. You also have Hodge Twins going back to the main comment section saying, quote, "Republicans are all paid off liars and don't give a damn about the people who voted for them. Never again." Getting 20,000 likes. Let's make it 21,000 maybe. No, but I did like it nevertheless. Which, yeah. Every time someone says Republicans are going to stand up for something, which, again, in the United States, politically speaking, firearms and gun ownership is very much a political issue with, Democrats wanting to take them away and Republicans claiming they want to give us back gun rights. And yet, my favorite use case that I always will argue to my deathbed, which is, again, I would give Republicans so much credit if they get rid of the NFA Act in 1934. It's the reason buying a suppressor, short-barrel rifle, short-barrel shotgun, machine gun, destructive device is a pain in the rear, and you have to pay a tax stamp from, again, 1934 for your God-given right, which I find utterly abhorrent. Also have to pay sales tax on top of that, which I think is bull crap. But again, it's been around for almost 100 years. Democrats say they're pro-gun, and yet they haven't repealed that. There have been multiple times in my life where the Republicans have had the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. And yet, that is still around for almost 100 years of tyranny. So I always kind of use that as a kind of a point to drive my, a data point to drive my point home in terms of, again, I want more gun rights. I want less taxes. I want the government to stop spending so much. And I vote, for people who say they'll do that. And then they don't, then I, won't vote for them again. But yeah, it's ridiculous. You also have Retard Finder, one of the most popular growing profiles on X, saying, quote, "I hate to break this to everyone, but you've all been played. It's time to wake up. This is a worldwide phenomenon. Nothing will ever change. People behind the scenes are running the show now, getting 29,000 likes, which, yeah, I would tend to agree in terms of a globalist agenda. That's one of the reasons you have less fun cars around the world, because all the emissions regulations. You have Nick Sorter saying, quote, the Senate can cut the pork out and send it back to the House, and that's what they should do. And he says he did a hashtag to leader John Thune. That got 9.1 thousand likes. Heather Eagleman says, quote, I can smell the primaries right now, getting 3.1 thousand likes, which, again, I think Trump, they should have all moved a lot quicker when he first got in office, because, again, once midterms get here, they'll do even less, because, again, they want to basically do no controversy at all, so they'll get more votes. But, yeah, the primary, I'm going to actually like that. The primaries, yeah, vote these rhinos out. It's, yeah. What is it? The age-old saying is no one is more apt, or no one has a better, more consistent track record of stealing victory from the jaws of defeat. Or is it the other way around with Republicans? Now you have Brianna Moriano saying, quote, Doge was extremely popular with American voters, and ultimately they're working against the will of their voters. Agree, gained 6.9 thousand likes. Robbie Starbuck says, quote, Congress has never been more hated. The good members know this and understand why. It's largely corrupt, insular, narcissistic, and filled with wrong incentives. It's both sides of the problem, especially in leadership, and that's the nicest stuff I can say with Congress for now. Getting 12,000 likes. Ed Krasenstein says, quote, it's crazy to me that all the Republicans voted Republican in order to balance the budget, but when it comes down to it, they don't really care. It's just all about what Trump wants, and what Trump says is good. Getting 8.3 thousand likes, which I find his statements mostly mentally vacuous, but again, life in an echo chamber can get a little bit boring, so I try to follow as many people as I can of all political ideologies on the X. And yeah, I definitely think we should be cutting the budget. No one is brave enough to do this. Trump won't. We need to cut entitlements. There's a little bit of that, but not enough. It is one of the biggest corruptions in the United States, with people using them as basically lifelong piggy banks. But yeah, let's just say the people who need help, they're there, but I can't believe there's more and more people who just live off the system or leech off the system and make a lifestyle out of it, which again, we cannot sustain. We're over $36 trillion in debt because of the ineptitudes and or corruption of Democrats and Republicans. You also have Valentino Gomez saying, quote, Elon, we need a real patriot in office. They tagged along with you and President Trump and always end up, and as always, they end up betraying the American people, getting 1.6 thousand likes. Email Strong says, the big beautiful bill is an ugly, wasteful piece of slop, getting 1.9 thousand likes. Which again, there's some good in it, but again, I think there's way too much cost as well. Sassafras84 says, quote, I voted for Trump because I want to change our government. If we didn't drain the swamp, nothing will ever change. I remember when primaries came and people kept saying that don't let a Democrat win. We must primary our GOP members. We absolutely must. Yep, getting 2.1 thousand likes. General Mike Flynn says, quote, it will not get better. The hogs are still at the trough and they refuse to move away from it. There are not enough good, honest people in Congress who are willing to stand up for the harder right thing to do at this stage of our monumental national debt, getting 14,000 likes. Which, yeah, we now spend more on the actual interest of the debt than we do on defense. And again, that's just paying the interest of the loan, not the actual loan that we owe. Guys, Planet of Memes, finally, it's been a while since I've seen him. Or some people call it, like me, to sound fancy, Planet of Memes. And you have, what is this meme? The guy who's trying to catch a ball and someone comes up behind him. The guy catching the ball is called Doge, and the ball is real cuts to government spending. Then the monster behind him is the GOP, and it pulls him away from the ball. Getting 1,000 likes. Yeah, the world of statistics saying the U.S. budget deficit. And now ever since, yeah, what was it, 2002? It's just gone up exponentially. Yeah. Now he did also note, says, quote, a budget deficit occurs when more, oh yeah, he just defines it. AKA, we're spending more money than we take in. That's kind of the summary of his old paragraph there. Which, yeah, is an issue, and it's disgusting, and I would argue on patriotic, they keep just kicking the can down, because eventually they'll have to do something. Now, might not be a very popular idea, but I think in terms of, how do you balance the budget, just like a business, you should probably sell off things that you don't use or are useless to you. I mean, U.S. might have to sell something we don't use to kind of get rid of some of that debt. Something useless that contributes nothing, like Hawaii. I'm like partially kidding. I mean, a lot of research development, a lot of innovation coming from Hawaii. I understand they have a military base and their tourism. But I'm like partially kidding. I'm sure we'll keep Hawaii. But yeah, one of Elon's most popular statements of the whole year. And yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm not very hopeful, but do you think the Senate will actually make the bill better? Will they do it? I mean, what do you think will be the actual outcome at the end of the day? Will the deficit ever go down in our lifetime? Will we ever actually pay off the debt? Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Sync being recalled due to a lead hazard. Or as I try to pronounce things, lead hazard. Now, this is brought to us thanks to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, perhaps the only useful government website, granted it's a pretty low bar, in which he says, quote, "V. Faust brand kitchen faucets recalled due to dangerous lead exposure for young children, sold on Amazon.com by Whisper08," which, yeah, you always want to make sure your resellers and where you buy stuff is a legitimate company. Whisper08, I mean, granted, I don't have much ground to stand on in terms of, having a funny name. My name is Topping, but I mean, Whisper08 sounds like a made-up name you have in a Call of Duty lobby. Nevertheless, you can see the picture of the little faucet there, which ironically, or dark humor, is cleaning fruit, which again, it's a lead contamination, so I don't want to have it near any food, but nevertheless, they say that, quote, "The recalled faucets were tested to found and contained lead that can leach into the water at levels that can be particularly harmful to infants and young children. The faucets were also found to leach other contaminants. They know that lead ingestion can be harmful to neurological effects on infants and young children, including attention-related behavior problems, decreased cognitive performance, and low IQ." And the recall affects 29,000 units, which is quite a few to say the least. Now, in terms of the remedy, they note that consumers should immediately stop using these faucets and contact Whisper08 about disposal and refund. Consumers will need to provide a photo of disposal and the order number to receive the refund. They note that Whisper08 is contacting all known purchasers directly. They're sold online on Amazon.com between January 2024 and May 2025 for about $40. And yeah, the manufacturer name, manufactured obviously in China, as Trump would say, and the manufacturer's name, I mean, these are just almost comical. And again, I don't have much ground to stand on, but I mean, I'll put it on the screen because I don't know if anyone will believe the name here. And I'm going to mispronounce it, just a heads up. It's like a 99% chance I will. Now, the manufacturer's name is Zheng Men Sao Now Wei Yu Xing Gong Si of China, doing business as Whisper08. So maybe that's probably why they're doing business as this easier to pronounce company, though also comically named. Now, silver lining in this situation is that, again, they don't have any reports of anyone being negatively hurt. Now, the concern is, again, these are long-term effects. So hopefully these weren't implemented in too many households. And again, yet another reason to be very concerned about when you're buying stuff on Amazon.com, because there's so many third parties, not all of them reputable. And why, especially when you have things that affect your health or could be, related to the things you touch and eat. Gotta be extra careful about where you're buying, where you're sourcing the materials, because stuff like this would happen or can happen. So I gotta say, not just Whisper08, but Amazon.com having yet another lead sink. I gotta say, you're certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.